That's right, man. That trilogy is nothing without the amazing work of Hans Zimmer on that score.
I mean, that man went in there and I feel like they told him, all right, Hans, this is superhero movie. Don't get too crazy. We don't need anything too serious. And I was like, yeah, okay.
And it's just the image of the piano on fire or whatever.
Right.
Well, listen, I want to start this thing off by addressing the homies. And I don't know that I've ever done this. This is more of a Kevin thing.
You're right. What I mean?
But the man sitting across from me right here tonight, first off, I want to start by giving him his flowers because he's done an amazing job in the podcasting world. And that actually brings me to what I wanted to open this up with here tonight is this is the only way I could get to this man because he cares about this podcast more than anything in the universe. He cares about all the homies out there. So what I need from the homies, I'm calling out to you. We are going to a convention at the end of this month. And we have a giant Mario cosplay that we have lined up. It's a giant group cosplay. We got everybody. We got Mario. We got Wario. We got Daisy. We got Peaches. We got everybody. We got a Yoshi. All right.
Are you 2 or 3? One of these.
So what I need from the homies is I am begging this man to be Bowser. I've even offered to buy his outfit so it can happen. So what I want you to do is write in, send emails, leave comments, whatever, and get this man to be Bowser in our Mario cosplay. It has got to happen. It is not complete without it.
When you told me you had an idea for a cold open, if I had any inkling.
That's why I ain't said shit about it all night.
Son of a bitch. Okay. Yes, Caleb has been pestering isn't the right word. Gently reminding me on numerous occasions about this upcoming convention and about the group's idea of doing a Mario themed cosplay. And here's the thing, homies. In my mind and outwardly, I even said, that's amazing. I just don't need to be a part of it.
Now, see, everybody that's going is, and it's just for one day, man. It's a 4-day convention, It's just a 1-day thing,
Okay.
Your costume's gonna be simple. You can just take it off,
Okay, I tell you what. The con is in like 3 weeks, right?
It is.
So here's what I do, homies. I need at least 3 more reviews on either Spotify or Apple Podcasts. 3 more. And if I get those, then I will not only strongly consider doing the cosplay, I'll post pictures myself on Superhero Homies Media, and I will do so with a Bowser-like smile, whatever that looks like.
And if he gets 10 reviews, then he'll sing the song.
Whoa. Okay, now if my rendition of Peaches sounds suspiciously just like Jack Black singing it, don't suspect that it's just me playing it on the podcast.
No, it's just because your Jack Black impersonation
so spot on.
Is that spot on? Everyone knows this,
right?
I mean, you're known for it.
Oh yeah, a lot of people don't know that, but
every party we ever go to together, everybody's like, "Come on, man, do the thing." You're like, "No," and then they're like, "Come on, man," and then you just bust it out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was just one of those things. I even do punch up ADR voiceover work when Jack isn't available. So. One of my side hustles.
That one commercial that they did about like what he was doing during the pandemic.
Oh yeah,
all voiceover.
Oh yeah,
they did the Pedro Pascal thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
From a distance, people can't tell me and Jack apart either. So I got that going for me.
I might be. Okay. I feel like that might be a bit of a stretch.
You think so?
Yeah. I know we're doing a bit, but I think I might have to step off.
All right, then fine.
Well, tonight we are here to talk about a masterpiece.
We are indeed. This has been something that has been in the works for a while now. So, fun fact: one of the first episodes that we ever did on the podcast was Kevin and I. We covered the Dark Knight trilogy. I mean, it was like maybe single-digit episodes. So this was early on in the infancy of the podcast. And there was a lot going against us in that. One, we were still very new. And so we didn't really have the bearings that we have now to do it. And one reason why that's bad is because, we tried to talk about the entire trilogy in one sitting, in one episode. Hard to do. Very hard to do. And then secondly, I was sick when Kevin and I recorded that episode.
It was damn near 9 hours long. I mean, that's like damn near 9 hours of trilogy that you're trying to thoroughly discuss in an hour and a half or whatever.
Yeah, it was extremely dense. And the episode was fine, but it's one of those things where it's like, I know that it can be done better. And so now, years later, a few hundred episodes deep, I figured, you know what? I think now it's time. And I was talking to Caleb off mic, and I said, man, it seems like we had this planned for the writer's strike. We had no idea.
Right.
It's just that kind of good timing, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, my podcast is on hiatus.
Right, which seems, again, very convenient timing.
Yeah, and we already have like a season of content that we can do, that we know we're going to be able to do. So, honestly, man, I think we're in good shape.
Yeah,
and it will be nice for a while to not be like rushed to like get something out.
Right.
It's like, oh, this came out, we got to get a review done. I mean, we still got The Flash coming up. That's the thing.
Yep, still got The Flash coming out, and I assume still that most big budget movies are still gonna release this year that are supposed to. Most of them.
I think Aquaman's probably in trouble.
Aquaman might be in trouble.
Maybe the Marvels. Because aren't they doing a bunch of reshoots and stuff on that?
Yeah. You're right. Yeah,
they're just gonna put out what they had.
Well, I mean, not to get up on a tangent, but that might be smart. Like they put the movie out as it is, and if it's terrible, they'll be like, "Oh, it's because of the writer's strike."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we got heroes. Oh no!
Right.
That's what Rings of Power is gonna do.
Yeah, man.
Now, what would be real fucking funny is if like season 2 of Rings of Power is like amazing. They'd be like, "Yeah, we sent all the writers home, and then somehow everything just worked out."
Yeah, we couldn't get any real writers, so we just got like fans.
Yeah, it was already shitty fan fiction anyway. Eventually, I'm gonna talk about that. Like, I'm gonna do an episode about that show. I just gotta wait for the day when I'm like angry enough.
Right. Yeah. With this writer's strike and whatnot, like the only good thing, not a good thing, but like the saving grace is that like, thankfully there's so many comic books. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it's like, even if there's not like live action adaptations, there's still so much stuff to talk about.
We got White Sand.
We got White Sand coming up, and I'm stoked about that one.
I really got to finish the other Sanderson book that I'm reading so that I can read that one.
I forgot you were currently reading another Sanderson book, the latest one, right?
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have that shit knocked out by this weekend.
Yeah. Okay.
By Monday, it's done. Yeah.
Excellent then. Yeah. Yeah, I imagine we got to get that knocked out, probably then before MomoCon.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say that that way I don't have to bunch it all in with all the stuff I got planned. After the break. So.
Right. Yeah, that works. But I mean, also I planned on at some point with this writer strike, if I'm in a good enough mood, if I'm in too good of a mood even, I think then that would be the perfect time for me to finally sit down, grit my teeth, and watch Gotham Knights.
I was hoping you weren't going to say that. Let's not forget that we have like the entirety of the Shield to watch.
That's true, that we do, but
and you'll actually enjoy that.
Yeah, well, there must be a balance in all things.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, so I can't just sit back and enjoy all of something.
So like me and you can watch an episode of The Shield.
Yep.
And then you can have Oz over and y'all can watch an episode of Gotham Knights. Yeah.
That's hilarious. That's also fucked up.
You're the one that keeps doing it.
He keeps saying yes for some reason.
That's true.
Yeah.
There's that one moment, and I won't spoil it here because it's so new, but there's that one moment in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I just can't wait. he's just gonna implode.
I know. I wish I could be there with him when he sees it.
I'm
Especially
gonna
that part.
record that shit. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. I got you.
It's gonna be incredible.
I got you, fam.
And I halfway wish that you know they had did something with that also for like a mid credit or post credit. You know, just to dig the knife in a little bit deeper. Would have been great. But yeah, guys, go see Guardians 3. And if you haven't already, go check out the review that Caleb, I, and Brendan did just a few days ago when the movie came out. Very enjoyable flick. A lot of really cool shit happened in that. And the review, I dare say, was damn near as good as the movie.
Yeah, I mean, it was a blast. And, you know, I'll you know, make no qualms about this. We thoroughly enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed it the most out of the three of us for sure. But everybody liked it. Nobody left the movie theater like, oh man, Marvel is slouching at it again. So, you know, it was good times. I think the ball's in DC's court with the Flash to make it or break it.
Yeah.
I'm less hyped about it than I was, you know, but I'm still hyped.
Yeah.
So they're in a good spot for this because if it's trash, right, James Gunn will just be like, well, you know, I'm rebooting everything.
That's true, yeah.
James Gunn will just be like, well, this isn't mine.
Yeah.
You know?
But there's been so much hype around it, like, you know, and so many people who work with the studios or people who have seen like early release footage, you know, they've all been ranting and raving about it. But, you know, I'm a jaded podcaster, so none of that really means anything to me, you know?
Yeah. Well, my thing is like, I feel like if Keaton's Batman doesn't pop you, and it doesn't pop me, right? Like, it kind of pops me, right? Like, him as Thomas Wayne would have really popped me. But it's really clear we're not getting that unless the trailers are just super misleading, right? So, yeah, I mean, I just don't feel like that's going to happen. And Keaton's Batman, it would be one thing to me if, like, they confirmed he's in the movie and that's really all we got. And it's like, oh, he's going to have a role in the film. Cool. But I got to tell you, man, it's to me, it doesn't bode well for your, like, titular character for all of the promo material to be, like, 60% Batman. It's called The Flash.
Maybe it does bode well if your lead actor is Ezra Miller.
That's true, man. Did you see that shit that, like, one of the producers said?
I did.
Ooh.
I can't believe they said that.
For the record, homies, one of the producers was like, Ezra Miller's performance in The Flash will make you forget about his crimes. And I was like, what the fuck? You can't say that.
You can't say that. That's so fucking terrible.
Like, yeah, Bill Cosby was a tremendous actor.
Oh, yeah.
And comedian.
Yeah.
That just not distracted me at all from the fact that, you know.
Right. You know how many hits R. Kelly got?
Right. Yeah.
It's not going to make me forget
Yeah.
about him peeing on that little girl.
Yeah.
Or all the other atrocious shit he did to minors.
Yeah, I mean, fuck. I mean, yeah, no.
Yeah, so that's not how that works.
No.
You know? It's one of those things where it's like, you know, I think best case scenario, I thoroughly enjoyed the movie despite Ezra Miller, you know, recreational activities.
Right. Yeah.
You know. Yeah, so before we begin, we have to...
nice pun.
I didn't mean to do that, but yeah. I'll take that. We must play the game.
But of course.
15 questions, my friend. And this is a comic book edition, since we were talking about a comic book based movie. I have a character in mind, and it is up to you with the series of yes or no questions to guess. And you have three guesses, and again, 15 yes or no questions to ask me to figure it out.
Okay. Let's get it started then.
All right.
Is this a DC character?
Yes.
Okay. Are they associated with Batman?
Yes.
Okay. Have they been featured in a live action film?
No.
Are they going to be featured in a live action film?
No.
That's confirmed.
No.
That's interesting. Is this a villain?
Yes.
Okay. Are they in Hush?
No.
Okay. That actually narrows it down significantly. That's
Right.
good. Is it a male?
Yes.
Okay. Am I familiar with them?
Yes.
Okay. This is interesting. You got me thinking over here. Okay. Not in any film. Not announced to be in any film. They're not in Hush. That actually might narrow it down more than anything besides are they DC. Okay. Not any live action. Not planned to be in any live action that we know of. Does this? That brought two questions to mind. Does this villain character? Do they have? Are they currently human? Most of Batman's villains start out as human.
Yeah. I will say no.
Is it Killer Croc?
That is incorrect.
Damn. Okay.
Good guess though. Also, he was in Hush.
Oh, that's right. He is in Hush, and he's referenced in Rises, but not in it necessarily. Okay. Damn it. Yeah. All right. Are they? That's 10 questions. I got 5 left. Are they in one of the? Do you fight them in any of the Arkham games?
Yes.
Now, this is just a clarification. Mm-hmm. When I asked you if they were in any live action films earlier, you mean they're not in any live action film, like not just a Batman film, right?
Yeah, no, they're not in any live action film.
Okay. But you do fight them in one of the Arkham games.
Yes.
Okay. Is it Firefly? Is that his name?
That is his name, but that's not
that's not the person. Okay. All right, I got one guess left and 4 questions left. Okay. You really amped it up on this one.
Yeah, I did. I had to. You guys were getting these pretty easily. I will give you this hint, and this may narrow it down a little bit more than I want to. I don't know, but the game he is in is Arkham City.
He's in Arkham City. And you say you do fight him. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now my brain is trying to scan everybody that you fight in that. My record is on the line here, folks.
Oh yeah, you're like what 3-0.
Are they considered? So is this a mainly psychological villain for Batman?
No,
they're very physical. Then. Yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna count that as one question.
All right. Very physical. They're in city. Not in a live action film. You find him in the city. Do they have supernatural abilities?
You know, I will say yes.
Okay.
Man, you're right there.
I know. Fuck. Yeah, this is tough. This is very tough. It's been a while since I played through that game, so remembering all the bosses and everything. You're gonna say yes, they have supernatural abilities. How many questions do I have? 2?
You have 2 more questions left.
I have 2 questions left. 1 guess. Really got to narrow it down. Not in Hush. They are in Arkham City. You fight them. I know when you tell me, I'm gonna be like, damn it. Do you fight them multiple times in the game?
No.
No, just the one time.
Yep. This is not a pun. I'll go and tell you. So it's not Mr. Freeze. It's not a pun.
I already knew that. Yeah.
When I was gonna say, for me, it's definitely one of the coolest boss fights in the game.
Gotcha. And I think we had different opinions of that because, well, not necessarily that I didn't like this fight, but that it doesn't, isn't registering to me, like it didn't stick out to me.
Yeah, maybe.
Is it Clayface?
It is not.
Oh, there you go.
Yep. Man, first time. All right.
That's the first time you ever got me.
Yeah. The answer is Solomon Grundy.
Fuck, man. Yeah. You'd have thought I would have, I was right there, but I didn't think of him. For whatever reason. He just did not come to mind.
Yeah, and that's how it goes.
That is how it goes.
Yeah, I had to ramp it up here a little bit.
Because when I was like, do they have supernatural abilities? You're like, I would say so. And I was like, well, fucking Clayface definitely has supernatural abilities. But I would say Solomon Grundy does as well. So.
Right. I was like, it's not like he does anything supernatural, but I think being a zombie is pretty much supernatural.
Yeah, it is. That was good. That was a deep cut.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was like, he definitely knows who the fuck Solomon Grundy is.
Yeah, I actually completely forgot that you fight him in that game.
Yeah.
And it is a cool ass fight. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just been way too long since I played that game.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell you, the last time I played that game, it was when Gotham Knights came out, and I had been playing it for a while. And I was like, I think this game sucks. And I was like, let me load up Arkham City, man, and just see if, I've just become jaded, in the 10 years of video games or whatever. I played Arkham City for, an hour, and I was like, nah, Gotham Knights is trash. Yeah. This is amazing.
It's amazing, yeah, and my gosh, we don't have to get on a tangent on that, but my goodness.
And then I became enraged, and I turned it off.
Yeah. It's because I recognize that at best Gotham Knights, the video game, is mediocre at best. Right? When it's firing in all cylinders, at its very best is mediocre. But for me it was man, even then it's so hard for me to get sucked into this game. I couldn't even finish it, right? And I ended up just YouTubing the end. I got right up to the end fight, and then I just stopped because something marginally more interesting came out.
Right.
And I never went back to it. And I just ended up YouTubing like the ending.
Right.
Because I just couldn't do it.
You made it further than me.
Yeah. I made it really far, man, and it's such bullshit you had to do in that game. Oh, yeah. But anyways, enough about that. Homies, one and all, welcome back to a very special episode of the Superhero Homies podcast. My name is Quentin, and tonight I am here with my good friend, the homie, the one and only homie Caleb. Welcome back.
Hell yeah, man. I am glad to be back. When you asked me if I wanted to talk about the Dark Knight trilogy, I was like, I was born for this. This is literally what I want to talk about.
Right.
So,
and I figured that'd be your response, and I'm glad, because it was funny because it got brought up in the homie Oz's presence one day, and he was like, "Man, what the fuck? I get to talk about Howard the Duck and all these other shitty superhero movies, and you invite Caleb to do the Dark Knight trilogy."
Well, I've gained a lot of XP. See,
yeah,
it's like in that like a MMO. The first couple quests is man, go kill 11 crabs or whatever. And I'm I'm higher level now, so I get to go fight the dragons and stuff.
Right. So, yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, you've got the upgraded gear and shit.
Yeah. So, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So I can meander on into this area.
Meander, the word of the year.
It really is.
Oh, so Batman Begins, the start of a beautiful trilogy, kicked off in 2005, directed by Christopher Nolan. Screenplay written by Chris Nolan and David S. Goyer, who is also a very, very established comic book writer. What, if you remember, because this was years ago now, 18 years ago. What were your thoughts on this movie when it came out?
So that's very terrifying because I was 18 at the time. So half of my life ago.
Yeah.
I actually remember seeing this for the first time very vividly. It is one of those like really concrete moments in my life. So the girl I was with at the time, me and her whole family went to the movies, and her mom was there to see some like chick flick. Mm-hmm. And she had a pretty big family. Like she had like I think 3 sisters and a brother. So she was like, no, like go see Batman with your boyfriend. She's like, and the girl I was dating, she was like, no, I want to see the chick flick, whatever it was. And she was like, go see Batman with your boyfriend. And I was, at the time, I did not really realize how like fucking green flag that was. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I was like, you're looking back on it, it's just like extra points, okay,
right.
So we went to go see this Batman movie, and now like I had been a fan as a kid of, you know, Batman, even Returns, which I don't like at all now as an adult, and Forever, which I still really like Forever. I understand that it's not a great film, but I just like it. And then you know, I liked the toys from Batman and Robin as a kid. Yeah. But this, I had seen no trailers. I didn't even actually know that there was a Batman movie coming out. I had no idea. I really didn't even know who Christian Bale was at this time. I wasn't familiar with Michael Caine. I knew Gary Oldman from several things. Fifth Element being like the main thing, you know, back then. So yeah, I mean, there was a lot going in. I went into this so blind because this is before the cultural zeitgeist became comic book films.
Yeah.
And this honestly really kickstarted it. I mean, if you look at it, Spider-Man and X-Men were a big deal because those were both popular Saturday morning cartoons that became successful live action franchises. And that really like lit the fire. But I mean, this trilogy poured gas on the shit.
Oh, absolutely.
And this movie, I think, was a sleeper hit out of nowhere. It's my favorite Batman movie of all time. And I still think it doesn't get the credit it deserves for 2 reasons. Number one, it doesn't have the words The Dark Knight in it, right? Like a lot of people, like The Dark Knight, the sequel to this, I mean, it took over the culture.
It did, yeah.
It was such an incredible thing. People who didn't give a shit about Batman were going to see that movie. And then like The Dark Knight Rises came out, and there's like probably a ton of people that have seen those 2 movies and don't even know Begins is like part of that.
Yep.
So yeah, when it's mentioned, I mean, Begins is always like the little brother or whatever.
That's how it's treated, yeah.
Yeah, but I think as a movie, you know, Ra's al Ghul, this is the first live action appearance. Yeah. I think, and Scarecrow as well. And I think just as a film, it's the best of the trilogy to me. I think it has the best telling of Batman's origin, right? Not that there's only one way to tell that.
Yeah, it's the only live action telling.
The only thorough one. Yeah. Most of the time you just get the little nightmares and the little flashback. And, and you know, all that. So what we got at the beginning of Batman vs. Superman. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, just reminding you of, you know, hey, his parents got killed.
His parents are dead. He's scared of bats. Moving on. Yeah.
Right.
But this movie, the way it's told, it's that kind of non-linear style that Nolan is so well known for. Because honestly, if this movie had been in a linear fashion and it started out with a 40-minute backstory, you would have been clawing your eyes out. But they don't do that. They give you the little pieces of the backstory at the beginning with his parents dying, and then you see the modern day Bruce, and that's over. Like every time something happens that's going to be relevant, they give you a little bit more of the backstory. Yeah. It's a great way to tell this story, I think, and to tell an origin story without, you know, boring your audience or us having to watch kid Bruce Wayne for 20 minutes and then we have a different character. You know.
It's such a task, right, to tell the origin story of Batman, simply because at the time that Batman Begins came out, Batman had been around for a little over 60 years, I want to say.
Right.
And in those 60 years of comic books, he had never had a definitive origin. Like between the time his parents got killed and he put on the cape and cowl, there really wasn't like an in-depth, thorough examination of what in the world happened. Like we know that he traveled, and we know that he picked up skills and learned shit, and we know that when he came back, he was ready to begin his quest of vengeance. But we don't really know too much about what happened.
So would you say that, I don't know a ton about the comics prior to this point because, like I said, I was a casual Batman fan, animated series, whatever.
Right.
Before this movie, and then I would consider myself a much more like hardcore Batman fan after this movie came out. So, would you say that the comics kind of adopted that, like, that is the established canon that he was trained by the League of Shadows from this film?
I don't think that the comics have ever really leaned into that. But I do think that that's a very cool way to kind of blend in things together for the story that the movie was telling.
Yeah.
I think that's a great adaptation. But man, like what I really do appreciate though, and maybe I appreciate this from both Nolan and Goyer and Jonathan because he was also involved in the writing process. But the fact that the three of them, they wanted to know, okay, what do we have for the comic book basis for Batman's origin? And then this when they found there's not a whole lot, but what did exist, they used.
Right.
I mean, so for example, Liam Neeson plays the primary antagonist in this movie, Ra's al Ghul, but he's also called Ducard. I don't know if they ever really call him Henry Ducard, but in the comics, Henry Ducard is the man who taught Batman how to become a detective, how to be a skilled sleuth and detective.
He says it at the very beginning.
Okay.
When he introduces himself in the cell.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
He says Henry Ducard.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So we get one moment in the movie where he does identify himself as Henry Ducard, and he uses that as an alias, and he teaches Batman a lot of things. And the similarities that this version of Henry has to the comics is, first of all, again, bravo to the Nolans and Goyer because Henry Ducard, he's kind of a deep cut,
Right.
And also Henry Ducard was someone who really taught Bruce a lot in his formative years, and Bruce really admired him. But then Bruce used those same detective skills to learn that Henry is he's a shyster and he's a thief and he's not that good of a person, and he ended up having to bring down his mentor. And so I really like how they adapted so much of that into this movie.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, at this point in time, there's a lot of deep cuts. If you consider, like, what was the popular culture for Batman at the time. Like, Rachel Dawes is a deep cut. You never heard anything about Rachel Dawes?
I actually think Rachel was created for the movies.
Right. Well, so, yeah.
Yes, yeah. You don't get no deeper than that.
Yeah, that's my ignorance right there. So I assume they had pulled that from somewhere.
Yeah. So here's how you can tell if it was somebody from the comic books. If she sounds like a Bond girl.
Yeah. Yeah. Did Grant Morrison start his run after this movie came out?
It was right around the same time, like maybe a year before the movie came out.
Because I know he leaned kind of heavily into the League of Shadows stuff. I mean,
he did. So. Yeah. But I did watch a short on this movie about like the influences, right? And it was interesting because again, 2005, so you had to keep this in mind. But obviously, they pulled from Batman Year One, and we're talking about like there's direct moments from that comic book that they used here. Yeah. They talked about Long Halloween. They talked about a lot of like the 70s comic books, like when Ra's al Ghul first appeared, what's called the Demon Trilogy. A lot of that was also used, and it was interesting, right? Because this is actually on the Blu-ray or on the 4K, however you want to watch it. There's like a thing that you can watch, like a behind the scenes, a making of, and they're talking about this and the influences. And it's only about like 14 minutes long, and it was interesting, right? But then they started talking about like, they started talking about how Frank Miller really redefined the character, and in reference to like Batman Year One, and then they talk about The Dark Knight Dark Knight Returns, which really wasn't adapted for Begins, but for other movies. And then they started talking about how, with Jim Lee, his art style that he did for Hush, and how fantastic that was, because Hush came out like just a year before Begins.
It's interesting how closely my favorite Batman comic and
Right.
my favorite Batman movie
Right
were
there.
created. Yeah.
But the whole reason I bring this whole thing is because time is a motherfucker, and sometimes hindsight really is 2020, because they began talking about how now like we have this perfect marriage of like arguably the greatest Batman writer in Frank Miller and arguably the greatest Batman artist in Jim Lee, how they've come together, and now they're working on a new Batman title, All-Star Batman and Robin. And they were hyping it up so much, and I was like, oh yeah, this is when that book was being created. And if you guys don't know the irony behind that, it's the fact that All-Star Batman and Robin is known worldwide amongst Batman fans for being one of the worst Batman runs ever.
Yeah. Yep. I've never even read it, and I know that it's not good.
I have it on my shelf in absolute form, simply because Jim Lee's artwork is superb.
Yeah.
But man, hey, they can't all be winners though.
Well, a lot of people say that like Affleck's Batman is very Frank Miller, but like I don't know, man. I feel like this Batman is closer to Frank Miller than Affleck's ever has been, especially in Rises.
I can see it in Rises.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of brutality,
Sure.
and anger, that's where a lot of people get that from with Affleck's Batman, and the fact that he just has that kind of stature that's most similar to that hulking Miller Batman.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, in Rises for sure, there's a lot of elements from Dark Knight Returns.
There's scenes lifted straight out of it in that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, by the way, guys, if you haven't figured this out already, full spoilers for this 18-year-old movie.
Yeah. That when you first said it's an 18-year-old movie, I was like, holy shit. Literally half my life.
It's insane.
Yeah. It's incredible. Yeah. Wow. What a thing. One of the other things that I love, you're talking about the behind the scenes of this, is, after Rises came out, Nolan said that when he first got the gig, that, and I don't think he named the person, but it was like a producer at Warner Brothers. We know it wasn't John Peters. They said that, out of all the superheroes, that Batman benefits the most from the different interpretations.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just such an astute thing to say.
It is.
Because it's true, Like, there's so many different ways you can play this character. And it's interesting because he doesn't have a lot of the characteristics that most superheroes have. Because, he's just a guy.
Right.
There's that line from Justice League War. You're not just a guy in a bat costume.
Right.
And I mean, no, he is not just that. But,
Right.
He does not have supernatural abilities other than like prep time, I guess.
Yeah, he will make you think that he does.
Yeah. I mean, when they check you into the hospital and start asking you, you'll swear that he did.
Yeah, you will swear that a demon emerged from the shadows and beat the fuck out of you.
Yeah.
And then you told the demon where the drugs were at, and then he thankfully left you alone.
Right, yeah. But, unlike the base character sheet, though, I mean, him and Kevin McAllister have the same, base power set.
Damn it. I would say this though. If someone was dumb enough to try to infiltrate like the Batcave with him in it, then I think you really get that 1-to-1 comparison, because now you're trying to fight the Bat on his own turf.
Sounds horrifying.
It does.
I'm pretty sure he doesn't have to even be there.
Oh,
for you
yeah.
to get wrecked.
Yeah, they got the talents to try it in Court of Owls.
Yeah,
and he came out in a giant bat mech. It was like, get the hell out of my house. some mistakes in life you only make once.
And that was
That's definitely one. I do like the way this movie starts though, because it is so different, and also it's like they give us by far the most information we've ever had on Bruce Wayne's origin, but they do it without telling us everything. Still, they tell us enough.
Right. And we also, this opens in like a Asian prison of some kind.
Right.
And you're just like, what is going on? I mean,
Yeah.
for somebody like me who went into this blind the first time I watched it, I just remember being like, what is happening? And then this like prison yard mud fight breaks out. And I was telling you this off mic, this was like when Batman was like a silly, campy thing.
Yeah.
Because the last Batman movie had been, was it 99 or 97? No,
97.
97?
Yeah, that's when.
Yeah, because 95 for...
Not 95 for
forever.
Yep,
And then
97.
So it had been 8 years then. So yeah, I mean, that's the last Batman movie that came out. I mean, that's a fucking PG, if that,
Right, just goofy
nonsense.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if you were saw that, you'd be like, oh well, I can take my 6-year-old to see this Batman movie, and there were some little kids in there, and people got up and left because within the first couple minutes, I mean, you got Batman in here, he's breaking arms.
Oh yeah. Well, it's interesting, right? Because like, this is so hard of a question to answer without today's lenses on, but if you go back to 2004, is Chris Nolan really your first choice for a Batman movie?
And that's so interesting too, because at the time he had Memento. He
didn't have Prestige yet.
He had directed Insomnia, but he did not write that.
Right.
And so he doesn't have writing credit on that. That was really just I want to work with Robin Williams and
Pacino, right?
Pacino, we're gonna give you a bunch of money to direct this. You're like, whatever.
Yeah.
And you can tell if you watch that movie, it never once feels like a Nolan film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And man, I was trying to think about like, did he have any other writing and directing credits before, between Memento and Begins? But that,
I'm actually checking the record on that to see if he did, but so he had, there's not a lot of stuff. Almost everything is that's really, he had Memento, he had Insomnia, and then Begins is like right after that. He had a couple of little shorts that he did in like film school before that, but the only like mass market items was Memento and Insomnia. And I think the way that Memento was told, I think people looked at that and were like, what if we could tell a Batman movie like from that perspective? Because not only is the cinematography solid, right, but you have a main character who doesn't, remember anything, and you're learning alongside with him what has happened. And this movie follows a similar format, although Bruce knows everything that's happened, the modern day Bruce, but the flashbacks are there to kind of fill in for the audience what's brought him to this point. And I mean, whoever had the foresight to like go, oh yeah, we could do that, we should get him. I mean, several $1 billion later, it was definitely the right choice.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was hands down the right choice. But I mean, hell, I just don't know how they came to that conclusion.
Me either, because he wouldn't have been my first choice. But I mean, that's popular with Batman. I mean, Heath Ledger wouldn't have been anybody's first choice.
Yeah.
Robert Pattinson definitely wouldn't have been anybody's first choice.
Right. Michael Keaton was,
Michael Keaton was a comedian. I mean, he was, wouldn't have been anybody's first choice.
And also, even with directors, like, they were like, Tim Burton's going to do a Batman movie,
Yeah.
And with Nolan, I imagine most people were like, who's this relatively unknown doing a Batman movie?
It's true.
Yeah. And so it's interesting. But, yeah, so Begins really kind of gave him a huge push because the movie was so good. And, like, here's the thing. I believe the box office was somewhere between 500 and 600 million, which by today's standards may not sound like a lot, but we're talking about a superhero movie in 2005 That's really fucking good.
that had very little marketing push at
Yeah.
all. I mean, you know, and it made more money than his other two films combined. Yeah, I mean, this was a huge deal when Begins came out with Nolan at the helm. The reception was really good. The sting at the end, which we'll talk
Right.
about, had the hype through the roof.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, that was nowadays in 2023, if a superhero movie doesn't cross a bill, we don't even pay attention.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's even like, oh well, if it doesn't hit a bill, it's a flop.
Yeah.
You know?
Which is insanity, but yeah.
It is insane, you know. But that's where we're at. Like, you know, a lot of people are even looking at like the Guardians box office and being like, oh yeah, man, you know, Guardians isn't doing so well. $386 million opening weekend,
Right.
You know, that was
Yeah.
revised up twice. And I'm like, what do you guys? I mean, that's double budget. You know
Right.
what I mean? So,
I mean, and not to get off on a tangent, but I think one thing Guardians really has going for it is positive word of mouth.
yeah,
You know, which you may not be able to say the same thing about a few of the previous comic book movies. You know.
no, yeah, I think it'll
Yeah.
take next weekend as well because of that. You know,
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are like, oh, now I'm going to go see it, and you know, those big opening weekends, like I said, not to go off on a tangent, it's like they've lost that credit where it's just like, oh, this has the MCU stamp on it. We know it's
Right.
going to be amazing. We'll go see it right now. Now it's like, I'll wait a week and see.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
What's the Rotten Tomatoes user score look like?
Right.
And it's like 97%, I think, for Guardians right now. So.
Super high for critics and fans.
Yeah.
Which is wow.
Rare.
Yeah.
Very rare these days.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, once again, go see it. Come back here, listen to the review. But this movie, you know, it's interesting to look at Christopher Nolan's progression because when Batman Begins came out, you know, you had Begins and then Dark Knight. And then after that, you started to see his movies get marketed with from the
Yeah.
director of The Dark Knight,
Right.
Christopher Nolan, you know. And then after Rises, it was like from the director of the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah.
And I can remember even when Dunkirk came out, they put all the hits on there. It was like the Dark Knight trilogy,
Well, you know,
Prestige, you know,
Yeah.
Interstellar, Inception.
It's kind of crazy, right? Because I remember seeing the first trailer for not Dunkirk, but Oppenheimer.
Yeah,
And the first trailer, it just said from Christopher Nolan.
exactly. Yeah, and that's where we're at now, where it's like,
Yeah.
it's like you don't have to tell the audience what he's done anymore.
Right.
I mean, in the age that we're at now, the Dark Knight trilogy isn't even his biggest bragging right. I mean, it might be his biggest, but I mean, if you were to line up The Prestige, which I consider to be the
Yes.
greatest movie of all time, The Prestige, Interstellar, which I love,
Inception.
and Inception together. I mean, they're not connected in any way.
Right.
But
That would be the most confusing trilogy.
trilogy of all time. I was like, what the fuck? But I mean, yeah, those three are just as big as the Dark Knight trilogy to me. Maybe not at the box office, but I think Inception hit a bill.
I believe it did, and Interstellar did really fucking good for itself too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and then like the only reason Prestige I think didn't get the huge bump that the other movies got is because Prestige came out between Begins and Dark Knight, and
yep.
he hadn't really taken off yet.
Yeah.
I don't know that I saw Prestige in theaters. I'm not sure if I
I
did.
can tell you, I didn't. I got it on DVD back in the day.
Yeah.
I mean, I just saw it and it looked. You know what? I got it because I saw it's got the new Batman and Wolverine in it. So I'm gonna pick it up. Yeah, and it ended up blowing my mind.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, to this day, you know, a lot of people have a hard time being like, "What's your favorite movie?" But for me, it's not hard. Like it's that one.
Yeah.
I feel like there's not a single second waste. As a matter of fact, I need to just review it on my show.
You should.
Just
yeah.
need to review it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, put that on the docket when Entertainment Evolved comes back.
How the fuck do I even? And that's the thing, though. The reason I haven't yet is like, how do you even podcast about that movie? You know, because it's just
Yeah.
like if you think that this movie's told in a non-linear format,
Right.
that movie is absolutely all over the place.
Well, then I'm going to need you to redeem me, and I'm going to need you to do an introspective breakdown of Tenet.
No, no, I've seen Tenet twice, and I still couldn't spoil it for you if I wanted to. Yeah, Tenet is I mean, I don't know if we intended for this to become the Christopher Nolan episode, but Tenet is like, it's too far, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I think it's a great movie. The performances are excellent. I mean, John David Washington in anything. And then also, you know, Pattinson kills it in that movie too. Love their performances. I could not really tell you what the fuck they were doing, but it looked cool.
It looked cool as shit, you know, and I had like a visually a good time watching it. That's about where I am with Tenet.
It looked cool. It sounded cool, and I kind of was following along.
Tenet is what happens when you become that person in Hollywood, right? When you're that guy, and you get the opposite treatment, where you get little to no studio interference.
Yeah.
Because in most cases, there's too much interference from the studio. And you're like, let the artist be an artist. Let them tell their story. And they're like, all right. And we get Tenet, and we were like, maybe y'all should have, done so.
Maybe somebody should have been like, I'm not sure.
Yeah. You know how, like, in most cases, we're offended when we hear producers say something that's like, they think the audience is too dumb, so you need to dumb it down. All right, that's the one exception, all right?
Yeah. Somebody could have came in and maybe dumbed that down a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, I followed along with Inception, but I definitely know people that wouldn't.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And that's like a level 1 Nolan movie,
Yeah.
But back to Begins. So I thought that this opening was a really bold choice because, like you, I wasn't used to seeing Batman or Bruce Wayne in this kind of environment or setting, and no one is so it's a very bold choice in that regard because people, especially the casual audience, they're conditioned to go into a Batman movie and immediately seeing Batman,
right? And
now we have to see him begin.
And you don't see him in the actual full suit for, I think, over half this movie almost.
Yeah. The brilliance, though, is that we see plenty of action before that. And that is an extremely intelligent thing to do, because if you link all the action to Batman, then, this movie would be an incredibly long and boring affair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's just done so well, right? Because you see him build as a person. Mm-hmm. He goes from a guy who was willing to commit murder in the name of revenge and really didn't have any skills.
Yeah.
And you see his skills grow, and you also see his morality grow.
Yeah.
Together. And then by the time you actually get him in the suit, you have this guy who is doing this. Not only is he on this mission of justice, but he's doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And that's the way that culminates into that first scene, and then the first scene where you see him in the suit being so well shot. It's masterful, man.
It is.
The way that those little pieces are just put together.
I don't know if this is a hot take, to be honest, but I like the bat suit in Begins more than I do in Dark Knight or Rises.
Is it because in those movies it's too tactical?
I don't know. It looks less like Batman to me. I don't know if it's the shape of the cowl, the neck. I know that Bale didn't have as much mass on him in the sequels as he did in the first one, but he looks visibly smaller as well. And I mean, all of it is for practical purposes, I mean, so it helps the movie, especially with the fight scenes, flow better. But I don't know, man. I don't dislike those suits, but I think the one in Begins just looks better to me.
The Begins suit is pretty close to Keaton's suit. No, not Keaton. To Kilmer's.
Kilmer's,
suit.
yeah.
As a matter of fact, I think that's what they had him audition in was Kilmer's bat suit.
Yeah.
Pre-Nips.
Right.
So, the Rises suit is my favorite suit. But I get it's not for everyone. It's not remotely comic accurate to any comic I've really read.
Yeah.
But I think that for this universe, for the aesthetic of these movies and and whatnot. I think that it represents like a culmination of like all the tech that him and Fox built into it.
Yeah.
And I love how it's like plated and like it's just a very functional suit. It's not really there to look comic accurate. I don't think that's what they're going for with it.
Yeah, I mean, and which is fine because, like you said, it works really well for this universe and what they're doing here.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the League of Shadows here. So the League of Shadows, maybe some people don't know this, but they actually had subtle rebranding, just like the Brotherhood of Mutants with the X-Men, and that is the Brotherhood. They went from the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants to the Brotherhood of Mutants.
Right.
And I believe that was doing like the Claremont era of X-Men. He was like, let's drop the evil, because they don't believe what they're doing is evil.
Right.
With the League of Shadows, I believe originally they were actually the League of Assassins.
And I think they're still called that.
Yeah, and it's like and sometimes they're still referred to as that, and then you read other comics and they are known as the League of Shadows, and it just really kind of goes to show like, okay, well, what's the intent,
Well, and it's also kind of like to me, it's always been a thing where like they would refer to themselves as the League of Shadows, and then other people would call it the League of Assassins.
Yeah, and that clears too, and it makes a lot of sense. I thought that the League of Shadows scenes were excellent. It was cool for me, like, because I remember being a teenager and seeing this movie for the first time in theater and seeing the fake Ra's al Ghul and being like, oh shit, okay, I just never thought that I would get to see a Ra's al Ghul in the Batman movie, because I had seen like maybe one trailer before the movie came out, and I knew that Scarecrow was in it, but that's about all I knew, and so seeing Ra's al Ghul, I was like, oh, cool. And then we eventually get the fight scene between Bruce and the fake Ra's, and I'm like, did they kill him? Like,
yeah,
they did not fucking kill Ra's al Ghul like the first 25 minutes of this movie.
See, I thought I didn't think a whole lot of it because I didn't know that much about him at the time. Like this was really my introduction to that character. Right. I didn't know anything about a Lazarus Pit or any of that until after the fact when I started doing research. But yeah, I mean, it was interesting that like he kind of killed him in the beginning. I was like, okay, well, maybe this is just he was just like the mini boss,
right?
Before he goes back to Gotham. And I guess watching it, I don't remember how I felt about it when I saw it the first time, but I guess maybe I thought that Scarecrow was going to be the main guy. Or, when they start talking about, like, well, he's coming or whatever, it's like, oh, well, maybe it's the Joker because Scarecrow definitely seems like somebody who would fucking work for the Joker.
Right.
And also, the only Batman movie the Joker had been in prior to this, he did use, like, the gas on everybody. So, it was like, oh, okay, maybe that's where this is going. But then, I'm going to tell you the first time where Liam Neeson like pops back up and he's like, but is Ra's al Ghul immortal or whatever? I lost my shit in that theater. Yeah. I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
They tied it all together. We never left the Shoney's.
Right. We never left the Shoney's. Yeah. So we can talk a little bit about Ra's here, man, because or Raish as they call him. I think what they did with him was really well done. Like, it's because like you can only be so grounded with Ra's al Ghul,
right.
Like either he has a mystical magical pit, or
right.
or he doesn't, but I like the idea that even though Ra's al Ghul is not a singular person and he himself hasn't been around for thousands of years, the organization has. And we see Henry Ducard or Ra's al Ghul in this movie explain to Bruce that the League of Shadows has they've torn down civilizations for centuries on end now,
right?
And this is what they do when they see things going in the wrong direction, and they think it's up to them that they're basically a force of nature who's coming to course correct society when society has gone down the wrong path. And I think that's a really cool interpretation of what the League does. I mean, because that is what they do. And I mean, the only difference here is that they've changed Ra's al Ghul from a name and a title to simply a title.
Right.
But again, works really effectively here.
Yeah, and he's doing the Padme Amidala thing where he's got
Yeah.
like the double or whatever, essentially. Although it's not a double in this case. It's just this guy's name is Ra's al Ghul. He must be a, elderly Asian karate master.
Right.
He's playing on people's prejudices or whatever,
Right.
And so, like, that's an interesting kind of cover that they have.
Yeah.
And the guy in the end of the movie looks surprisingly a lot like the guy from the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, he looks more like the fake Ra's al Ghul.
yeah, they do this a lot.
Yeah.
Clearly. And it's a cool reveal, and they really went hard on like less is more for this, because when he's introduced to us, he's not introduced to us as a villain at all. He's a mentor for Bruce.
Yeah.
And it's not until the end of the movie when he comes back that he's, villainous.
Yeah.
And he doesn't do any mustache twirling or any of that shit, and he doesn't do anything to make you, purely to make the audience hate him.
Right.
He's literally on the mission that he told Bruce he was on in the beginning of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
And told you. And, like, you're mad, but you have no right to be. He's literally here doing what he said he was going to do.
Yeah. Except he did make a pit stop and burn down Bruce's house, but, I mean, that's different.
That's true. Well, Bruce burned down his house. So, it's clear that, Ra's has a very, black and white view of, like, what justice is.
Yeah.
And, this whole idea that, like, the criminal element, like, thrives on the mercy of society. And it's an interesting, although nihilistic kind of viewpoint, but it makes him a very interesting character that he's, like, so solely devoted to this. In his mind, this is almost like a Thanos type thing. We talked about this on the villains episode, and he would have been a good example for this.
Yeah.
He looks at this as like, this is what has to be done. I'm just the person with the will to do it.
Right.
And Bruce is not. And so that's why what he's doing here is not good enough.
Yeah.
He's a false prophet or whatever, But, I have the will to do what is necessary. And like that's the way he sees himself.
Oh, yeah. And I always take the opportunity to do this whenever the opportunity presents itself. But I will use this as example number, whatever number I'm on, to explain why Bruce Wayne's money cannot save Gotham City. Because Ra's al Ghul don't give a fuck about that shit. You can just kind of go down the Rose Gallery and pick out how many of these rogue galleries actually give a single fuck about Bruce Wayne's money. You might be able to convince Deathstroke to not kill somebody.
Yeah.
Outside of that, you about shit out of luck,
Yeah, that's about it. I mean, what the fuck is Killer Croc going to do with a bunch of money? He can't walk into fucking Best Buy. There ain't nowhere to plug in a TV in the sewer.
Yeah. That's why he's so mad.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just trying to watch CSI, man.
Right.
And,
Yeah, and fuck.
But no, and I really love too how in the Batman, the most recent Batman film, they kind of explored that. It's like Thomas Wayne tried to use his money to like save the city. He tried to pour all these funds into investing in like Gotham's infrastructure and things, but the city is so corrupt that it all ended up in the wrong hands.
Yeah,
and that was such a cool thing for them to explore too.
I mean, it was, and not to get too fucking lost in the weeds here, but hell, you can say that like one of the few presidents who tried to do anything positive for society got assassinated in Texas.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's true.
Yeah,
you look at it, and the way he's doing it as Batman here is really Bruce's only way to figure that he can affect any real change.
Right. Yeah, this is the way that he sees that he can do it. And even throughout the course of this trilogy, we know that he's still funding charities and whatnot. One of which. Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, fake ass Robin, comes from. What was his name in that?
Oh man, old busted ass Robin. I don't know.
We'll talk about it in a couple weeks.
Yeah, unfortunately, I like him.
Yeah.
As an actor, and I don't know that he's bad as the character. I just don't
He's
like.
not.
the way that
Blake
they did it.
is his last name.
Yeah, detective. He's not a detective. Officer Blake.
Yeah. It'll come to me.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah. But yeah, so when we get this scene when Bruce has to inhale the fumes from the flower that he picked, again, I love how everything in this movie is tied together.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it really is. And he inhales it, and while he's tripping balls, he has to solve this puzzle / mini boss fight.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this would be hell. And he does a really clever thing here where he gets cut and he starts cutting some of the other ninjas around him, and Roz thinks that he's got Bruce dead to rights, but Bruce has him. Very clever. And then almost immediately after that, or at least some time later, Bruce he has to do the whole thing where, okay, congratulations, you succeed. Now you get to kill this guy, and they bring down the guy who committed some crime. Do we know what he did?
I think they said he, what was it? He killed his neighbor over some livestock or something like that.
I mean, livestock is life in that kind of scenario, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, Bruce wouldn't do it. And this movie we get like the whole moral quandary over, what's right or wrong in this scenario. And I mean, it is a complex, situation. And you could argue that both Ra's al Ghul and Bruce are looking at it in a black and white scenario. And that it is more complex. But regardless, they both see things completely different.
Right.
Yeah. And so big ass explosion and fight ensues. Ra's al Ghul, at least the fake one, he's dead. He dead. He killed. Being a stand-in for Ra's al Ghul has got to be great until that one thing happens.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I'll go back to the Padme decoy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fine until somebody tries to assassinate her.
Right. Yeah, they did the same thing in another movie, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sean Connery's character. I forget which one he played, but yeah.
I mean, none of the comic book characters are in that film, so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that completely ruined Alan Moore's take on superhero movies entirely. That's the movie that did it.
I think that's what broke his psyche.
It did.
What was left of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about some of these other characters here and kind of like the overarching plot here. So we did discuss that Rachel Dawes, she is actually created for the franchise here. What you think about her character in this movie?
I really liked her in this movie because they really don't ever, and this was very progressive for 2005. Mm-hmm. They play her as smart. They don't play her in the damsel in distress role other than when she gets fucking gassed. And then the same thing that happened to Batman happens to her.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, well, I mean, anybody in this scenario would have been in the same situation. And I really liked that they played her as like a strong heroine in this. Yeah. She was pretty likable, I thought, before she was unfortunately recast. Yeah, well, someone who wasn't really very likable.
Yeah, well,
we'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into that.
For sure. Yeah, that's going to be a rant. But yeah, I thought she was great. She plays her role very well in this movie, and they also avoided the trope that was super popular at the time, where at the end of the movie they just embrace and kiss and get together and whatever. Like, that would have been terrible. But the way that it ends, where it's like he's thinking in his head at this point, like, I still can have a future with her, but I've devoted 99% of my life to being Batman, and I've saved this like 1% of like who like that little boy was, of who Bruce Wayne was, and it's her. And he still in his head thinks that somehow that's going to be able to work out.
Yeah.
Even though like as the audience we're like, no, I mean, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I for me, Bruce Wayne and Matt Murdock are so closely associated together because, I mean, I think they're two of the best comic book characters of all time. I think they're GOATs. And I love them so very much. And I also think that both of them, for my entertainment, need to be in a perpetual state of suffering for my enjoyment. But no, as far as Rachel goes, for a long time, she was a perplexing character to me because I understand her role in the movie, but at the same time, I didn't understand why she was here. I was like, because like you guys, referring to like the people who made the movie and wrote the movie and thought it up, you guys went through the fucking weeds to pull out, everyone you could. I mean, you guys are using Ra's al Ghul, Henry Ducard. We're getting Scarecrow and all these other cool little Easter eggs. Lucius Fox. I mean, for fuck's sake, I never thought I'd see Lucius in a fucking movie.
Right.
And here we are. And I'm like, but we create this love interest. And I'm like, why? Why are we doing this? It wasn't that I didn't like it. I just didn't understand it.
I think it's because all the other, kind of like you said earlier, all the other Batman love interests in the other 4 movies, other than Poison Ivy, were all just throwaway Bond girls, you know? Yeah. And I think that may be why that they were trying to get away from that.
Yeah, I mean, what's wrong with Nicole Kidman's Meridian Chase,
and she's the best example of
right. Yeah.
Yeah. Because, of course, like, it makes sense that a therapist would be, like, super into Bruce Wayne,
Oh, right. Yeah.
Be like, oh, this guy's going to make me so much money.
Right.
Spend the rest of my career trying to diagnose this motherfucker.
Right. Yeah, so it was interesting. They didn't go back to the well with Vicky Vale. They created their own. And again, I certainly don't dislike it. And by the end of the movie, I was like, okay, I'm on board with this. And every time I watch the movie, it just seems more and more understandable as to why she's here and her role in it. And admittedly, I do really like her in this movie. I think she serves a very strong and reasonable purpose because we don't have Harvey Dent yet. So that means we don't have somebody fighting on the DA side of things, and we need that. Now, granted, while I was watching The Dark Knight, I was like, well, now that we have Harvey Dent fighting for the DA's office, do we really need Rachel? And then, like,
well,
yeah.
You got your answer.
But no, I the reason I liked her in this movie actually didn't have anything to do with her being the love interest to Bruce. Actually, I'm kind of meh on that. I like her in this because of like the functional practicality that she serves, being that person of who's fighting, for the district attorney side of things, on the legal side of things, trying to get things moving here. Because honestly, at this point, I mean, she's got way more pull than even Gordon, who's just a beat cop.
Yeah. That can't get anywhere in the department because he's not crooked.
Right.
Yeah. So,
speaking of which, let's talk about Jim Gordon here.
Listen. You can do whatever the fuck you want, but there is never, I'm just going to say, there's never going to be a better Jim Gordon. What's his name in the Batman?
Jeffrey Wright. Yeah.
I love him.
Yeah.
I am a huge fan of his, and I fucking love his Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah.
Like, tremendous. Mm-hmm. It's close.
Yeah.
But you will never top the Gary Oldman version.
I agree. It's one of those things, right, where it's so good that you can do different, but you won't be able to do better.
Right.
It's almost like whenever we finally get a new J. Jonah Jameson, it's like they can get somebody who's really good, but they'll never get another, J.K. Simmons.
Yeah.
And
Gordon was always just played as like this fucking Homer Simpson as a cop version.
Oh, yeah. In the older ones, yeah. He was just the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was awful.
It was the guy with like the big bushy mustache.
Yeah.
And he would show up after and be like, "Great Scott, Batman.
Right.
Oh, we'll take these guys to our
Yeah.
If he even had that many lines.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. He was terrible.
Yeah, it was always just such a throwaway role, and the combination of like Michael Caine, who we'll get to in a minute, Gary Oldman and Christian Bale, like that kind of core trinity of these movies. To me, they are all the definitive versions of their characters. I know that we don't necessarily agree on the Batman part, but
I mean, I'm certainly not mad at it. I don't know who my favorite Batman is.
That's fair.
And I mean, and I think it just kind of goes to show again to what we talked about earlier, how there's so many different ways to play Batman.
Right.
And I mean, but I will say this, like in terms of like the full breadth of the character, yeah, Christian, I mean, he's had the most time, but he's also, I think, has been able to flex that muscle more than anyone else.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a character as Bruce Wayne, and I think he is the best Bruce Wayne. I don't know if he's the best Batman in the suit. I think the best Batman in the suit is Pattinson because of the way he can emote in the suit.
Yeah.
That is superior to Bale, but I think overall it goes to Bale.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm not mad at that because I really enjoy his Bruce Wayne, like a lot. Even the one that had the douchebag haircut that we spoke of off mic.
and then, I mean, there's no argument about the other two, though. I mean, with Caine and Oldman. I mean, both of them are definitive.
Yeah, you're right.
It's a good time to talk about Alfred.
It is. It is. Yeah. So, yeah, Alfred, played by Michael Caine.
You will never. I mean, you said it earlier. You can do it different, but you can't do it better.
Right.
Maybe that wasn't super evident in this movie, even though he still knocks it out of the park in this movie. But the emotions, his scene in Rises, where he tells him about the letter.
Oh, that almost broke me in the theater.
I cried in the theater when I saw Rises. I saw Rises 11 times in theaters when it came out.
God damn.
Yeah. I was really super into it.
Yeah.
In IMAX every time.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I was so obsessed with that movie. Or just with this entire trilogy, And this wasn't like, Boys and Girls, this wasn't like, now where it's going to be on streaming in 6 months or 6 weeks or whatever.
Yeah, this was, like, if you don't watch it while it's in theater, you're going to have to wait 8 months to, 8 to 10 months,
Yeah, and then you got to buy the DVD or whatever,
Right. So. It was a whole different process back then.
Yeah, now it's like, 6 weeks after it's leaving theaters, it's probably already on streaming.
Yeah, like the Dungeons and Dragons movies are already on streaming. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, I just saw that the other day.
Yeah, it's like as soon as it, they put it out and let it hit that crest. And as soon as it's out of, the top 10, dude, they're like, put it out,
I mean, which I get it, but at the same time, I don't know. I feel like that kind of makes more people disinterested in going to the theater because they know they can just stay at home and wait a little bit and they catch it.
I'm a huge proponent of the theater experience.
Me too.
I like it.
Yeah, same.
I get I love watching something at home too because I can pause it, I can get up, I can go make a sandwich, I can do whatever. But there's just something about that theater experience, man, that I just that's just the ideal way to see some things.
Yeah, I do fear for the day because some movies are made for the theater, right? And they just, they just pop the most in theater. And I think that, Infinity War and Endgame are great examples of those, like the energy that the audience brings to those movies is part of the experience of the movie. And you can watch it at home for the first time, man, and still love those movies, but it's not the same.
Yeah. Endgame was a special thing, though. Yeah. The opening night of that is the best experience I've ever had in a theater.
Yeah.
I mean, there was nothing like that.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, it's hard for me to decide between the two movies. I think Infinity War is a better film, but the emotion that I have attached to Endgame is so rooted in that experience.
Yeah.
That I just, it was unlike anything else. And I don't think that there's not going to be anything that the MCU could ever do to top that. They might make a better film, but I just don't know if they have the juice now to make that epic build up and that epic conclusion. Like, I think Secret War could be amazing,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's gonna hit the way that Endgame hit.
And that's a great point.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of emotion tied into that with that experience. But man,
So bring us back around. Maybe they can cast Michael Caine in that.
Michael Caine as the Beyonder.
Yeah.
Now, who could be the Beyonder? Cillian Murphy.
Yeah.
Yes. Who is Scarecrow, Jonathan Crane in this movie. Did you know that he auditioned to play Bruce Wayne?
I did know that.
Yeah. How do you think he would have done?
I think he would have done a good job. I think that I don't know that he can go for the range of emotions that Christian Bale is able to do. For Bale, man, to me, like the definitive scene from an emotive standpoint is that moment in Dark Knight right after Rachel gets killed.
I was thinking that exact same moment. Yeah.
Well, because it's definitive.
Yeah.
And where he goes back to the scene
Uh-huh.
and he's just brooding there. And you can tell from the shot, even though the movie doesn't say it outright, he's probably been there for hours.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And he's not moving, he's not doing anything but just fucking brooding. And the emotion that he's able to convey in that scene is tremendous.
Yeah.
And I don't think Cillian Murphy, at this point in his career, would have been capable of going anywhere near that. But he was incredible with what he was given. I love that he's kind of like the minor villain throughout the whole trilogy.
Right. You just can't get rid of him.
You can't, yeah.
He keeps coming back. So yeah, I do really like Scarecrow in this movie. I mean, I like him in this movie more than the other ones, and it's not even that I dislike him in the other movies. He just has the most to do in this one.
Right.
I do understand why some people may have a problem with him because he's not quite as imposing, I guess, as some people would like him to be. And I get that. I do. Because we do get scenes with Scarecrow where, there are ways to utilize Scarecrow really creatively that really showcase just how fearsome, no pun intended, this guy can be. And simply because of the way that the movie rolls out, we don't get to see a lot of that from Scarecrow. But I think that what we get was really good. I thought they took a really creative approach with it, and I also think that where we don't get a whole lot of supernatural stuff with Ra's al Ghul, like a lot of people may be used to. I think that Nolan does give more leeway with Scarecrow,
Yeah, I mean, the compound makes sense.
Yeah.
It's grounded. You
Right.
know? And the fact that they had Bruce going, like, get the flower for him. And
Yeah.
like you said, everything in this movie's tied together. So the compound, the way it's delivered, how it all comes around to, like, Bruce going to get the flower at the beginning, it all kind of makes up for, like, the supernatural stuff with Scarecrow. And I thought he was really well done here. And this was also the boldness to go with a basically unknown director and then to go with two completely, for the casual audience, which was everyone then, basically, two completely unknown villains with Scarecrow.
Oh
also.
yeah, you're right. That is so bold because the studio was probably like, all right, let's get Joker and Riddler, or
Man,
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you now, like, I really hate that we never got the DiCaprio Riddler
yeah.
Christopher Nolan film.
That would have been so good.
It would have been such a banger.
Yeah,
It will never be.
I know.
Damn.
I mean, this may be a bit of a hot take, especially in your presence. I don't know, but I still wish we could have gotten that Ben Affleck directed Batman movie and see him in Deathstroke like he wanted to do.
I agree.
I
because
think
that type of story, I don't think has been told.
yeah.
Because Deathstroke is definitely somebody who can absolutely hang with Batman
Oh, yeah.
on a physicality level. And there's just kind of this idea of him. I think that it could have been it could have been done really well.
Yeah.
Especially with and Affleck, I think, is a very talented director.
Oh yeah.
So
I really like the movies that he directs. I mean, Yeah, Argo, Gone Girl, The Town. Like I really enjoyed all three of those.
I mean, if you want to explain to somebody who hasn't seen it why the DCEU is just fucking garbage, be like, well, Batman never got his own movie. Mm-hmm. Batman's a side character in everything he's in,
which is so weird.
Yeah,
yeah. And we're back around to like studio interference going the opposite direction too far, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Let's see. Oh yeah, Lucius. The first time we see Lucius is in live action is in this movie.
Yeah. Morgan Freeman killed it.
He did.
As he does. He was such a good addition to the lore here.
Yeah.
Because, he didn't exist in the culture at this point, really. I mean,
right.
You weren't a comics reader.
I think if you watch the animated series, I think you see Lucius in like 1 or 2 episodes, and that's about it.
Yeah,
you know.
But he became Batman's like freaking engineer here.
Yeah,
and it's such a good role in all 3 of the movies.
Yeah,
you know?
it is right, and like even the times that you see him in the animated series, one of them I think is a flashback, and he's actually building the Batmobile.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But it is a really cool addition here to see Lucius. And again, I mean, just hats off to the writing team here because they could have done anything for that or just bypassed it. Bruce Wayne has money and, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the way that they tied it all in with the Wayne Enterprises.
Yeah.
Wayne Enterprises is used as a heavy plot point in this movie. And I always thought that was so brilliant where it was like, that's what the League of Shadows would want to do is try to infiltrate this, and it's their tech that they use, to carry out the plot, their evil villain plot. So
yeah, and to be honest, like with the League of Shadows here and their plot, I'm like, I understand your guys's your plot and what you want to do here, but there are simpler ways to destroy the society. What y'all are doing, don't get me wrong, it's not Bane convoluted, but it is complex enough to the point where you could just drop a bomb on Gotham and be done with it. But they don't go that route.
Yeah, I mean, because that would have been like that's something where like that would be heavily investigated on like a national level, and it would be, it's going to start wars and shit, and like this happens, it's just like. They'll investigate that shit forever. They're like, we don't know what happened in Gotham.
Yeah.
Because like when they get there, there's going to be a bunch of fucking high ass fucking zombie people. Everybody who's alive,
Right. And with how much they put in the water system, like I wonder how long that shit would linger.
Right. Yeah. I mean, probably until like a weather event got rid of it.
Yeah. So Lucius was great in this movie, and I love how he kind of plays along with Bruce, with Bruce and his ridiculous notions of things that he's going to do with these prototypes.
So that's something I actually wanted to ask you on this.
Yeah.
At what point do you think he figured it out, like 100%?
Okay, so the first thing he asked to borrow is the actual suit. Like the body of the suit. I think shortly after that, I think there was probably some commotion, right, about.
It was in the papers, which people read back then,
right? I think he probably figured it out after that. If he didn't figure it out then he definitely figured it out after Bruce asked about the the base jumping cape.
Yeah.
Because then especially after that was when it hit the papers.
Right.
And people were like, there's a goddamn Batman flying around. And, and I would have loved to have seen Lucius's face reading that paper like, the fuck?
Yeah. Like, wait a minute. Yeah.
Yeah. And then if that didn't do it, when he shows up in the Tumblr.
That's 100% like, that even comes up in the second movie. Like, you mean you didn't recognize your baby jumping from rooftop to rooftop on the news? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Excellent question though, but Lucius, he seemed to be on the up and up from the get go.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, and then also let's not forget when Alfred just straight up calls him.
Oh yeah,
You know?
I would love to hear that conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Excuse me, Lucius, but if you could, Master Wayne has taken to driving around in a tank, I believe that you built.
he seems to have been sprayed with some sort of reverse ecstasy, and I'm gonna need you to get here.
I need you to
Help me figure this shit out.
Yeah, it's getting worse. That would have been a fantastic conversation to hear, to be a fly on the wall for.
Yeah, that's such a great scene too because it really humanizes him. It reminds us because like prior to that scene where he gets gassed, like
Yeah.
we see this like this build that I mentioned earlier, and it has this like crescendo when when he takes down Falcone,
Yeah.
and everything, and that whole amazing scene
Great
there.
scene, yeah.
And then, very shortly after that, we get into this scene where he's investigating where the drugs are going, and he comes to the Narrows, and finally, his little adventure he's going on as the Batman, he realizes that he's still a guy.
Yeah.
He gets set on fire. He didn't have any prep for that, and then he definitely didn't have any prep for the weaponized hallucinogens.
Yeah. I mean, thankfully you have the suit, but I mean, how much prep do you have for falling out of a window?
That shit looked like it sucked.
Right. While on fire,
Yeah, and he's lucky that they were trying to get away from the scene, man. 'Cause,
Yeah,
like,
they could.
If they would have found him,
Oh yeah,
that would have been it.
yeah. And and I do love that scene because it does show like the human nature of Batman, how he comes across as this creature of the night, but he is actually just a man. But also he's a man that has just like this indomitable will, because even while he's like freaking the fuck out with this, concentrated fear toxin, he still has the wherewithal to, get away and then grapple up to the roof and call for help.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah. So still shows that he's capable, but he's not invulnerable.
Yeah. And this is such a great scene too. I mean, like with when he comes to, and we got Alfred and Lucius, and he's just like, "How long have I been out?" He's like, 2 days.
Yeah.
It's like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
What all have these guys had time to do in 2 days?
Right. It would have been. I'm glad they said 2 days because we didn't know how long. But it would have been hilarious if Alfred didn't say 2 days and he just said, "It's your birthday, Master Wayne."
Yeah.
Yeah. So another side character here, he's a real piece of shit. Flash.
Yeah.
Detective Flash. He is also from the comics. Debuted in Batman Year One. He's a real piece of shit there too.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I have not read Year One, but I have seen the animated.
Yeah. He's because he's in that too. Yeah. He acts as the antagonist to Commissioner Gordon, who had just transferred into Gotham.
Right.
And yeah, he's a real corrupt piece of shit there. He's a corrupt piece of shit here.
Yep. Supremely corrupt.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Gordon's like partner, and you could tell
Yep.
Gordon's just like, fuck this guy.
I can't stand this motherfucker here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So something that we noticed while watching the movie was when Batman goes to visit Gordon at his home, we see a baby James Gordon, and we were like, that's his son. When we see him in Dark Knight, yeah, like you say, he's got to be like around 6-ish, right? What is the time jump, do we know, between Begins and Dark Knight?
So I was under the impression originally, I think that like the realistic time was the time frame, but that can't be right because I think they say like 11 years or something with Rises.
Yeah. So from Begins to Rises is like 11 years, but we know that Bruce.
No, from Dark Knight to Rises.
From Dark Knight to Rises is 11.
Yeah, I thought so. I think they say it in Rises that.
No, because I thought that he only had like a grand total. I don't know. We'll find out very soon.
Because he's not Batman between those two.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, we saw like baby Gordon.
Yeah.
And it doesn't add up if he's. that age in Dark Knight.
Yeah.
'Cause he had to be at least like 6. So it had to be like 6 years.
I mean, for that to work, it would have to be. I was always under the assumption that The Dark Knight only takes place a couple years after Begins.
I wouldn't even think it would be years.
Yeah, right. But that's pushing it.
Because unless that rooftop meeting with Gordon is
sometime
like way after this.
That only feels like. See,
because there's no way Joker was out there killing people for a year before Batman went after him.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, so was it a year between like the end scene of this and then that meetup with Gordon? Did a significant amount of time happen there? And then he gives him the car because like it's got to be a couple weeks minimum. Right?
Because it looks like Gotham is more cleaned up. We know it's not that long because Gordon is still talking about there's still people on the loose from the breakout.
Well, and the DA, I mean, we have a new DA because the old one gets killed in this movie.
Right. Yeah, we got a new DA. They got a new back signal because the old one, they couldn't keep Falcone strung up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. So it can't be that long between Begins and Dark Knight. But I mean, small oversight, I guess. I mean, we do know this, right? We do know that when Nolan finished with Begins, like he didn't have any immediate plans to do a sequel. Like he didn't know.
Yeah.
But then they were like, "Hey, you want to do a sequel?" And he was like, "All right."
Yeah.
And same thing happened again after that. You would think that he would have known after Dark Knight for sure that they would have asked him to do another one. But
well, I think the story is that they already were planning the third one. Because I think that's where all the DiCaprio Riddler stuff came from. Is like, I think Nolan actually said that he wanted to do Riddler. I don't think they ever said that they had confirmed DiCaprio, but like there was going to be this whole thing where like the Riddler was going to break the Joker out of Blackgate, and that Joker was going to be in the third one. It was going to be a thing. And then of course the super unfortunate death of Heath Ledger happened, and I think after that they didn't want to do another one like
psychological.
Yeah, I mean, Bale, Oldman, Kane, and Nolan, all four of them, I think, were just like, do we really want to do another one without Heath? Yeah. And then, they kind of got to work on the screenplay and ironed out what they ironed out, and it ended up happening that way. So.
Yeah.
But with this one, it's just like he went from this to Prestige, and then. It's almost like for a while there, he like dropped a Batman movie, and then he did more of a like art theater type movie, and then he would kind of go back and forth. So I don't know where the fuck Interstellar came from, but I'm glad it came from there.
Right,
it was amazing.
Yeah. I really actually like the action in Begins more than I remember liking it. And it's not that I ever had a problem with the action in Begins. Is I guess more or less that like even back then the action seemed like it was fine. It seemed like it was appropriate for Batman. But I don't know, for me some of the action shots don't age particularly well.
Right.
And I think a lot of it has to do honestly with the Batsuit. As much as I like the look of it, it's not practical to fight in, and so we get a lot of cuts.
There's some real gimmicky punches too, like that scene in in Falcone's bar when they pick him up from the table and punch him.
Yeah.
That shit's real 60s Batman.
Yeah.
Like even the sound effects a little off,
Yeah.
There is some of that in this movie, but I will say this. None of it happens when Bale and Neeson are on the screen together. Like all of their stuff is solid.
I will say, even with that, there's a few moments where, goddamn, I hate to say this because it's Liam Neeson again, but like, it's like the Taken movies with excessive cuts.
Oh, okay. I will give you that. Yeah. I just meant like none of it.
Oh,
like logically, like from the choreography is really good with the two of them.
Yeah.
But I agree. There are a lot of cuts.
Yeah.
Look, man, we just stepped out that fucking Guardians hallway scene. Okay. We can't
you're right. And Martin Lenses is not fair, but hey, this is the way
we're looking at how it is now.
This is where the action scenes are going now. I mean, fucking John Wick has done it 4 times. You know, the Raid has been around for a while. I mean,
I'm gonna tell you, man, that's probably the 30th time I've seen this movie. I've seen it at least 25, and I still thoroughly fucking enjoy it.
Oh, same.
Yeah.
And I even enjoy, like I say, even enjoy the fight scenes we get here. But I notice things now that I wish I didn't. I didn't really notice before. But still a lot of fun. And I also still really like the first Batman scene. I know we already talked about that, but when he first shows up at the warehouse, it's always a fucking warehouse on the docks.
Yeah.
Some shady shit always goes down there.
And that goes back to The Wire. That's got to be like the originator of that. It's like the whole second season of that is like about shady bullshit that happens at the docks.
Yeah.
So.
Nothing good ever happens at the docks, all right? Don't go there.
Yeah, fucking Jurassic Park.
Oh, yeah.
Very first scene. Motherfucker just gets 8.
Gets 8. Do you guys want to get 8?
Yeah.
Don't go.
Nothing good's ever really happened at a dock.
Right.
You know? So.
You know, it's funny because in retrospect, the whole idea of, because I feel like most directors or screenplay writers would have stopped with they're dumping the toxin to the water, but no one's like, it's not enough.
Yeah.
There's a prototype microwave emitter that vaporizes water, and then that is how the toxins will get into, will affect people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I get you, but man, I guarantee you could lose a lot of people just with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not to get too into the science of it, but I'm like, this also would boil everyone's blood.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, because like the first time I saw
humans are water.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna microwave you too, motherfucker.
Yeah, that's probably why Lucia said it was illegal.
Yeah. Yeah. I do love that scenery where they turned it on the ship because like the fucking catastrophic damage that would do to a boat,
Right.
It's very cool. It's very brief, but just that's one of those little attention to detail things. They didn't really go into the fact that it would fucking just incinerate.
Mm-hmm.
Not incinerate, but just boil all the people around.
Inside out.
Yeah. That little mask is going to do shit.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, so, going into like the third act of this movie, I from like the moment we get Ra's al Ghul coming back to like the end of the movie, it's just like the pacing is so on point. Like the pacing is great throughout the whole movie, but really in this third act, like it's just go in a good way.
If this movie came out today, man, there would be a fucking sky portal.
Oh, fucking hell.
Or there would be a scene where a big, huge group of the blitzed out of their mind people show up, and then Gordon, a couple of the cops, Rachel and Alfred would all have to fight them off.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and then you'd have Batman fighting through a bunch of them before he gets to Ra's al Ghul's guys.
Yeah,
fucking mess. Dude.
Yeah, that's what they do. Like just to pad runtime, they do some shit like that.
This is so well done because like everybody has a role here. Like so you have Rachel, like she's trying to get the what is the vaccine basically to Gordon.
Yeah.
And then she gets trapped in the Narrows, and now she's trying to get out. And she has her little face off a Scarecrow. Gordon has to take the train out,
right?
And then
in the Batmobile,
which is fucking cool.
Yes.
And then Batman, he's gotta solve the problem he created. He brought this shit here.
Yeah.
And it's this really fucking well done one-on-one fight with the villain.
Yes.
With all these cool callbacks to their history together. Mm-hmm. And I love that shit. I love the way that Bale delivers that line when he drops the you never did learn to mind your surroundings or whatever. The way he delivers that, he can't do his Batman voice anymore. His motherfucker's tired.
Yeah.
And he's about to leave this man to die. And he's been through fucking hell. And I just love the turmoil that he delivers that line with, you know. And then just the very concrete, you know, I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you either.
Right.
Tremendous.
I was going to ask you, how do you feel about that moment in the movie?
I love it, man. The first time I saw it, I was just like, what's going to happen, man? He's not going to go down with this train. You know, is he going to pull him out, whatever? But then he fucking drops that line, and to this day, man, that shit is cold as fuck. He just fucking puts the cape out and just fucking floats out of the back of the thing. And it is so badass.
It's extremely badass. And it's something that I have scratched my head over since 2005. Like, was that the right thing for Batman to do?
I think so.
According to like Batman's code, like it's. I think we're treading some thin water here.
I do think it's on the edge of it, but it's like the way I look at it, just from like philosophically, is it's not like they were standing on like a volcano having a conversation and it started erupting, and then Batman's like, "Oh, he's a bad guy, but you know I got to get him out of here." This motherfucker put himself in this situation, you know, like this situation that he's in is a creation of Ra's al Ghul's making, right?
Yeah.
And Batman, I mean, like obviously, like Ra's al Ghul was trying to like kill himself anyway, because when the train hits the tower, the shit's gonna explode anyway.
Yeah.
You know, and he's just like, fine, you know, I'll let you do your thing, but you're not gonna murder Gotham in the process.
Right.
I'm out. You know.
I guess like my only pushback with this moment is it just seems like if Roz wants to is gonna go down with this train, he's gonna kill, you know, Batman or Gotham or whatever. And I don't know, I'm like I feel that like Batman is kind of being like, well, you know what, you were right, Roz. Like, your mentality in this scenario was right and mine is wrong. I should not have compassion for my enemies because it may come back to bite me. And I don't think that that's something that Batman would come around to doing, because then he's really on that slippery slope.
Well, and I think there's like I think it could go either way, right? Like, the way he delivers the line, you know, I'm not going to kill you.
Yeah.
But I don't have to save you either. You know, I think in this circumstance, you can't use the logic of like, well, obviously Ra's is not going to stop, because the fucking Joker's not going to stop either.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that the way that it goes here, it's also about and this is like not moral at all, but it's also about like the public perception of Batman, right? If Batman kills the Joker, he's a murderer. But like in this situation, he didn't murder anybody. He's not doling out justice, you know, to Ra's here. You know, all he's doing is protecting Gotham and letting Ra's al Ghul fucking do what he's gonna do, you know.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that he could have shown Ra's that, like, hey, your way that you do things is flawed, and the way that I do things does have merit, and I'm going to show you. And like, instead of taking that middling road, he didn't take the low road. The low road would have been, I'm going to strap you to this fucking train.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wonder then, because like Ra's, he was gonna die regardless, right?
Right.
Who's gonna be the next Ra's al Ghul? Do you have a successor in mind?
Yeah.
Talia?
Yeah. Because she's already alive.
Yeah.
At this point, he talks about he had a wife and everything in the beginning of the movie. He doesn't mention that he's got a kid, but we know he does.
Yeah, he has to. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess it would be Talia. She sure did take her sweet ass time plotting that revenge.
Well, yeah, isn't she in the pit at this point?
She would have, I guess so. Yeah,
Yeah,
she's in the
so,
pit
yeah. Bane.
Bane, yeah.
Yeah, both of them are in the pit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that that scene, that ending scene with Bruce and or Batman and Ra's al Ghul, I do like it because it makes me think about the moral quandary of it all. And I mean, I don't know if I can never come around to being like, yeah, that's fine, Batman, let this man die, because it just seems so un-Batman like to me. But I mean, it doesn't like break the movie or my enjoyment of it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
It's also just cold as fuck.
it is cold as fuck. He was like deuces, and then just kind of
With the dramatic ass fucking exit, too.
Right.
The fucking Anakin Skywalker exit. The most dramatic thing I could have possibly done.
I mean, you know, in theory, I'm like, Raj, you could have packed the parachute or something, man. Like, you did not. You technically didn't have to do this.
Well, he was planning
this
on
way.
going down with this ship, bro. I mean,
Yeah. But you don't have to. You could have lived to Ra's al Ghul another day.
That's true.
Immortal my ass.
Assuming that, like, none of these, like, roided out, fucking tripping balls people, you know, kill
Oh,
you.
yeah, that too. Yeah. If he survived the initial impact, the first explosion, the second and third impact from hitting the columns, the building collapsing on the train exploding again, if he happened to survive all of that and then crawl from like the remains, then he had to deal with like the roided out fear mob.
Yeah. Some of which had guns.
Yeah.
Like the SWAT team and shit was in there. Yeah.
It was going to be a long day for poor old Ray.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he got wrecked on impact. Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. So the way the movie ends with Rachel blue balling my boy Bruce again. I'm like, you don't need to do this to him, Rachel. Leave him alone.
Yeah, it was rough, man. Bruce has a rough go of it. Because, like, I feel like there's almost that sense of, like, I think that first night where he got Falcone right, he probably felt amazing.
Yeah.
He did not need any Blue Chew that night.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And we see him with the two models, like, the next night. So,
Yeah.
you know, clearly. I think he probably felt super fulfilled right then.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think he did after this. Because
Right.
obviously, like, Henry was such a big part of training him.
Yeah.
And he did look to him as a mentor. And he did really hope he could change his mind. And I think, obviously, he probably feels elated that he saved the city and prevented the League of Shadows from, like, doing their work. But at the same time, it's like, I think this is the point where he starts to realize that in order for Batman's mission to go on, there can't truly be a Bruce Wayne. Like,
Yeah.
Bruce Wayne just has to become a mask,
Yeah.
you know? And because this is not a happy ending for him.
Yeah, no, and you know, it goes back to what I said earlier. Like, you know, Bruce, you got to be kind of miserable. You know, like that's so crucial to the character. Unfortunately, you know, like he can't be, because he can't have the best of both worlds. You know, he can't have that kind of happiness. You know, with the family and you know with, I mean, not out like a wife and kids. You know, like he can't have that and be Batman. You know. It reminds me of the scene from Mask of the Phantasm, where he's at his parents' grave and he's saying he feels guilty because he's found love and he wants to choose to be happy, and he's asking his parents, "Is it okay, you know, for me to be happy?" You know, and because with Batman, it's just one of those things where he's always in this perpetual state of suffering, but he's gonna bear that burden for Gotham. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we absolutely see the start of that here.
Yeah.
And it gets worse as these movies go on.
It does, right? Yeah. It does until it doesn't, you know. Unless Alfred is having a fever dream at the end of Rises, then Bruce does get his happy ending.
That's true, yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot of debate about that, which
There
I'm sure
is.
we'll talk about.
Yeah, we definitely will. Yeah. So we already talked about like the ending here of this movie a little bit about. Well, I mean, we did mention that the mansion gets burned down, by the way.
Yeah.
So that happened. And they're gonna rebuild it back better than it was before. They won't spend a whole lot of time in the new mansion, but that's okay. But yeah, the end scene here I really dig between Gordon and Batman. How they're talking about escalation and how we get semi-automatics, the criminals get automatics. We get Kevlar, they get armor-piercing rounds. And,
Right.
Yeah, and then there's you, flying around dressed as a bat, and he implies that Batman is inspiring people in the wrong kinds of ways, and he mentions this guy who has like a double homicide and this, that, and the third, and he's left his calling card, and it's the Joker card.
Right. Is this the first time that you ever saw a pop in a theater?
That I remember. Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine if we were alive for like
Star Wars.
Yeah, not even the first one. I would say if we were alive for like episode 6, I bet there was probably.
I think there was cheering and stuff in episode 1, or in episode 4, like in the first Star Wars.
Yeah.
Probably applause at the end, right? I think there was also probably that in Phantom Menace in '99. Probably happened.
Yeah.
Because like that movie is almost a Mandela effect, like from the response to it.
Right.
Because if you go and look at videos from like '99, people are like, "This is the best thing ever." Oh my god! Like it wasn't until later that people started to pick that movie apart.
You talking about Phantom Menace or
Phantom Menace?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Or Force Awakens. It could be either one. Applies to both.
No. There's this podcast I listen to, and they had that shit. They had that shit squared away pretty early.
Yeah.
Way faster than I did. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they were trying to tell me for like half a year that it was fucking garbage, and I was like, no, man. No, I mean, it's got some like Mary Sue shit in it, but it's good. It's a good movie.
Oh shit! I know you can't wait for the fourth one to come out. I
love the fact that they're not calling it episode 10. They're like, they're not going to call it that.
Good.
I think the working title is New Jedi Order. Like, they're going to call it Star Wars New Jedi Order. Which I'm like, that doesn't roll at all.
It doesn't.
It doesn't sound good.
New Jedi Order. Yeah, no, that.
Especially when you called the one 2 movies ago The Last Jedi.
Right.
Get the fuck out of here. Luke, literally, I mean, going by their own canon, you've opened a fucking monster here.
I did this.
Going by their own goddamn canon, which I disagree with, but Luke was like, yeah, man, here's like 7 reasons why that there shouldn't be a Jedi Order.
Right.
And she's like, did he really mean that, though? Probably not.
Probably not, you know.
He apologized in the 9th one. It's fine. He was like, "Psych."
I do want to have some closing thoughts on Batman Begins, but I guess one more thing about this new Star Wars movie, and that is trying to find a silver lining here. Do you think that this is an opportunity to add more depth to Rey?
They are going to put Grogu in this movie, and I am going to be so mad. I'm telling you, man, they are going to do it. Like, there's no way it's good to me. Like, Daisy Ridley's in it. That's how you can tell if a movie's bad. Have you seen the reaction when they brought them out at Celebration?
Oh yeah, that was bad. Kathleen Kennedy was expecting that Cena pop.
Yeah, and she didn't get it.
Right.
Yeah. No. There was a smattering of applause for Daisy Ridley.
Yeah.
But it was just like if you watch like that compared to like when they brought Dave Filoni out, you know,
right?
It's like, ooh, yeah, Kathleen Kennedy didn't get shit, bro.
Yeah, no, yeah, that was a little cringe to watch. I saw that shit.
I mean, it was valid. She was like, did the sound drop out of here?
Right,
Am I going deaf?
Turn my headphones up.
Yeah. They're all the way up, man.
Yeah, all the way up.
All the way up.
Man, what are your closing thoughts and feelings on Begins?
As I said at the start of this, it's my favorite Batman movie. I think it is the definitive Batman movie. Because you have the beginning where you're telling his backstory. You have the middle where you're establishing the kind of central plot, and you see him in the cape for the first time, and you see him actually become Batman and build his allies, and we see his rogue gallery get started, and then we have this third act, which just becomes so personal for Bruce, and. In a lot of ways, we'll talk about this when we get to Rises. Rises is a kind of more of a direct sequel to this movie, than it is to The Dark Knight. It's interesting how heavily that movie is really a sequel to Begins. So many just kind of little parallels and plot points that got wrapped up. This movie introduced two relatively unknown at the time. In pop culture, members of Batman's Rogue Gallery, two great ones. The cast is stellar. I don't know that you could really change anything as far as the cast goes and come out with a better product.
No.
Especially not at the time. So, yeah, man, this is my favorite Batman movie. Not saying I don't enjoy plenty of others, but to me, this one just... start to finish, if you're trying to encapsulate who Batman is and show me that on so many different levels, the skill, the morality, the backstory, the relationship with Alfred, with Lucius, with his inner turmoil with himself, all of it. I just think that there's not a movie that does it better. If you wanted to explain to somebody who didn't know who Batman was and you want to set them down with it, this is the movie you go to me. I don't know that I could give it a higher endorsement than that.
Yeah, that's a pretty fucking high endorsement. I think that Begins is a phenomenal movie. As we just discussed here. They do a lot of things that I think are risky, but they pay off. I think that the studio took a very big risk by getting Christopher Nolan to do this movie. Because if we get to the heart of it, this movie has action in it, but I don't know if I would consider this or even the Dark Knight to be action movies. I think that Rises is more of an action movie, but I think that Begins and the Dark Knight, I think they're more crime dramas than anything. I think that again, like you said, the Rogue Gallery is so crucial to this movie. The two villains who they chose. Again, if it were me, I wouldn't have chosen them, but I'm so glad Nolan did, because Ra's al Ghul and Scarecrow, I thought they were perfect for this movie. I wish we had the opportunity to get a little bit more Scarecrow, but I also understand why we didn't. And again, I think that the action is very serviceable. I think there's some great moments in it. I do wish there were less cuts, so that the action can blend together a little bit more, and so we can actually kind of make out what's going on here. I made the joke about Liam Neeson being in this movie. That's why there's so many cuts. A little bit of a Taken joke for you guys there.
Yeah.
You watch any Taken movies, if he's jumping over a fence, there's going to be 17 different cuts of him getting over that goddamn fence.
Yeah, there are a lot of cuts in it, but it never really bothered me in this movie.
Yeah.
But you are more of an action junkie than I am. Typically, the cuts would bother me. Mm-hmm. If it's like a WWE amount of cuts, that shit will ruin anything.
Yeah. But at this point, I feel like everybody has seen Begins. But if anything, hopefully this podcast inspires you guys to go see it again. Pull it up on whatever service you have it on. If you like Caleb and Bougie, watch it on the 4K version. It does look phenomenal.
4K HDR, it's the way it's meant to be seen. As a matter of fact, when we get to the other two, there are some IMAX shots in those movies. And, on the 4K, they actually take up the whole screen and everything.
Yeah.
It's tremendous, yeah.
Yeah, listen at this guy.
Hey man, I'm nothing if not a junkie for that type of shit.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so Begins is amazing. And again, this is why I don't work in Hollywood, because I would have never picked Christopher Nolan. I would have never picked those villains, I don't think. And there's a lot of things that I just wouldn't have done. And thank goodness I was not in charge, because I would have only been a kid, and also I would have picked wrong. This movie's great, guys. So definitely go see it again. But also, let us know what you guys think of this. Did you guys enjoy Batman Begins? Is it your favorite Batman movie? Where does it rank for you? If you don't know, then like we said, go rewatch it. It's definitely worth the watch. There's some really good shit in this movie. So,
and most importantly, don't forget the campaign from the very beginning of this. We need the homie Ace as Bowser.
If you want me as Bowser, King Koopa himself, then I need at least 3 reviews from you homies across either Spotify or Apple Podcast. And then I'll do it.
He'll do the damn thing.
Well, that is all I have for now. But this has been a blast. Caleb, homie, thank you again for being here, man. This has been awesome.
Absolutely, man. I can't wait to come back and do the other 2.
Oh, yeah. Like I knew that you were the right choice as soon as the thought came to my mind to cover the Dark Knight trilogy. And, and thankfully, you said yes.
Hey, I mean, here we are. So, homies, that's all for now. We will see you guys again soon. But until then, my name is Superhero Homie Q. And I'm Superhero Homie Caleb.